Hello, welcome to Somerset News Network. Now, I was just wondering what the 100-year deal with Ukraine is all about. Now, somebody said, and I said it on my podcast, the press have been reporting that we have bought the mineral rights from Ukraine for the rare earth elements. Well, I thought, let's see what we can really find out. And it turns out that the idea that we've bought the rare earth minerals from Ukraine in the 100-year deals is the secret part of it, and we're not going to be told. So somebody must have leaked it. Now, is it true? I don't know. So I went on the government website and I looked at the press release. And I'll put the press release up here. UK-Ukraine 100 years. And nice little flowers there. The treaty will boost military cooperation on maritime security. Doesn't say about tanks or anything. Maritime. For a framework of strength in the Baltic and Black Sea to deter ongoing Russian aggression. So, does that mean, like Napoleon's Oonic War, Nelson blockaded the ports along the French and Spanish coast so they couldn't come out? That's why we ended up with the Battle of Trafalgar. Because when they come out, they had a battle. And we besieged them, basically. Is that what we're going to do with modern ships to Russia? Are we going to blockade the ports? Now, if you're going to get a peace deal, free movement of shipping might be part of the peace deal. Now, the Russians have most of Crimea, which is the southern part of Ukraine. And this deal also goes to say that they're going to have scientific technology for health and disease. Well, we know that Ukraine has 30 biolabs. Now, we know what Fauci was up to in China with biolabs, and that created COVID. What's Starmer going to do? That worries me. They're going to talk about space and drones. And Lifetime French shamed it through the classroom. Through classroom projects. I'm not quite sure what that means either. They're also going to have grain verification scheme. What they want to do is test the grain that comes out of the Russian-held territory of Crimea, of grain. And then they're saying they track the stolen grain from occupied Ukrainian territories. What they're going to do is still keep it part of the sanctions. We've got a peace deal coming up. The peace deal is going to get rid of a lot of the sanctions as a sweetener to Russia. So Russia is going to be allowed to sell that grain, and we're going to stop them. This is what the blockade's for, to stop the grain getting out. That's what I think. Old-fashioned siege, if you like. And then we're going to put biomarkers in the grain, which is what the biolabs are for, to create the biomarker in the grain, so they can say that it's stolen and then steal it back off them. I think this is terrible. And this is a 100-year plan. Gonna cost us millions, billions, not millions, billions of pounds. we've also promised now, on top of that, military aid, 2.26 billion in military aid. And that's what happened over the weekend when Starmer was talking to Zelensky. Now, I find this very sceptical. I'm sort of reading between the lines, literally. You know, scientific and technology partnership, healthcare and disease. That's what Fauci said about the biolabs in China. He was doing gain of function. So are they going to do biolabs and create wheat seeds? But the Russians have already got it. They'll be using their own seed, not our seed. So the markers won't be in it. Or are they already in it? I don't know. I'm only posing the question. What I'm trying to do is find out what's going on. And none of it really makes any sense. And if Trump gets involved, this doesn't say anything about rare earth. Although they've been reporting that we have bought the rare earth in the 100-year deal. This doesn't say anything about it. So Zelensky can sell the rare earths to Donald Trump. So is Donald Trump also going to ask for the grain to be sold to America? Or to American companies maybe? As part of the peace deal. I don't know. I'm only posing the question. There's a lot going on that we're not being told. Trump stopped the aid. And Europe knows, and Zelensky knows, that he's not going to get any aid unless he's backed by the Americans. So this is all up in the air. There's nothing concrete. And if Trump gets the deal, where does that leave our deal? I don't know. I'm posing the questions. Starmer just seems to want to be the big I am, I've solved the problem. And all he's going to do is give them bombs and grains. And maybe, under this healthcare and disease technology, to take over the biolabs in Ukraine. This was part of the problem why the Russians went in. Ukraine is the most corrupt European country, well, country in the region ever. They were laundering money. We've seen that with the Biden laptop, how he was getting money off Burisma. We now know through the USAID that money was going to Ukraine and then being funneled back to the United States through NGOs. Now, where was that money ending up? Who wants to keep the money flowing? The Democrats. Were they the recipients of the money coming back in brown envelopes? What they do is they set up foundations, charitable foundations. Now, if they're recorded, or registered, I should say, in Delaware, like Harry and Meghan's Archewell, they only need to give out 5% of their income on charity. So they've got 95% of the money for managing the foundation. This is the way they work. Now, we knew they were getting USAID money through NGOs, through to the foundations. Were they getting Ukraine money coming back through as well? Don't know the answer, needs to be sorted out. This is from the government press release. Today's announcement builds on the 12.8 billion package of support the UK has given Ukraine. Now, is that what we've already given them? It looks like it. Including, we gave them 7.8 billion in military assistance, and a commitment for 3 billion more. We're also going to give them assistance for hospitals and community facilities because of the impact of Putin's invasion. Ukraine started the war. Ukraine tried to ethnically cleanse the Russian-speaking people from Crimea. Russia was backing them up with arms and equipment, and it was still going on. We were supplying Ukraine. Russia was supplying the Russian-speaking people of Crimea. The Russians were invited in. It was not an invasion. They were protecting, as they see it, their own people. All this, Russian invasion, Russian invasion. Now, was Russia right to go in? I don't think so. But Ukraine wasn't right to attack the Russian-speaking people in Ukraine to start with. Like I said, Ukraine is the most corrupt country in Europe, or the European area, I should say, because it's not in Europe and it's not in NATO. Russia wants Ukraine to be independent. It doesn't want it a part of NATO. And it doesn't want it a part of the EU. Remember when they had all the riots and the marches before the war? Everybody had Ukraine flags. Then they had a coup and got rid of the last president and put Lizinski in place. Lizinski has cancelled the last elections, so he's still in power. So is he legit or not? I don't know. I'm posing the question. They've destroyed 75% of the Orthodox Russian churches, Christian churches, because they were for the Russian-speaking Ukrainians. They're trying to ethnically cleanse the country. It's happening with the Ukrainians in West Ukraine as well. They've stopped the Hungarian language being used in Western Ukraine. They've stopped, I think they've banned the university, which was Hungarian, in that area as well. They're trying to ethnically cleanse their own country of Hungarian-speaking people and Russian-speaking people. Ukraine is a cooperative of different regions. There's a bit of Poland, a bit of Hungary. After the Second World War, they sort of had a bit of everything. But during the Cold War, the Russians basically moved in then. And it was more Russian than it was European. And they're trying to redress that balance. That's what's happening. My thought is that Ukraine should be an independent country in its own right. Something like Switzerland is. And be neutral. Then it can trade with Europe and it can trade with Russia. And there won't be a problem. And there will be peace. They ought to be like Switzerland and be a neutral country. But Starmer and his crowd and the Democrats in America, they just want to keep the war going. They think if they keep the war going, that Putin will give up and go home. Well, that ain't going to happen. So anyway, there you are. That's the information I got so far, and it could change. This isn't definitive. Until we know what's happening, till Zelensky and Putin sign the piece of paper for peace and the agreement is made, we don't know exactly what's going to happen. Starmer's trying to be the kingpin, and all he's turned out is he's just got egg on his face. Anyway, Ian, Somerset News Network, signing off. Bye bye.